Award-winning multidisciplinary artist Meredith Connelly has established herself as a visionary creator of grand-scale illuminated installation that masterfully blends light, science, and technology. And there'll be pieces of her work up on the screen as I introduce her here to give you a sense of her incredible body of work. Her immersive site-specific displays have captured and captivated national attention and engaged hundreds of thousands of participants, most notably through her acclaimed Lights project at the U.S. National Whitewater Center, which welcomed over 200,000 visitors during its inaugural run. Connelly's innovative approach to creating otherworldly environments using environmentally sustainable materials has positioned her as a leading voice in public art, with recent high-profile works including Rail Trail Lights, Golden Threads in Charlotte, which celebrates the area's transformation through nature-inspired sculptures. Beyond her three-dimensional creations, her intricate hand-cut paperworks have been exhibited in numerous galleries, while her commitment to expanding community through arts has led her to develop curatorial projects supporting emerging and underrepresented femme, BIPOC, and LGBTQIA+ artists, further cementing her reputation as both a celebrated artist and passionate advocate for equality in the arts. Daybreak legends, here to speak to us on our global theme of revival. Please welcome Charlotte's own Meredith Connelly. Everybody, come on up, Meredith.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I told Matt earlier I'm really honored, so I'm just going to take a second to get situated. So you heard Matt talk a lot about my achievements, installations, press, awards, and I'm proud of that. But today, I'd like to crack wide open and share a different version, a version that occurred in between the highlight reel. I was a teen mom. I'm a 2-time high school dropout. I moved to Paris alone when I was 17. I worked 3 jobs, and it took 7 years to put myself through art school. I'm a survivor of domestic abuse. I was in a pretty tough relationship in college. And, you know, that's also part of me. Those things matter just as much because they are my unapologetic humanness. And that, to me, is where revival lives. It's not in the glossy version, right? It's in the grit. It's in the messy. And so I've been through those difficult seasons. They come and go. And maybe you have too. Maybe you're in that right now. And maybe this morning, revival is a slight whisper to you in your time. From the outside, what people saw was persistence and resilience. But from the inside, it was one foot in front of the other. Sometimes it was exhaustion and depletion. It was also love, urgency, necessity, messy and unspectacular. It was the beginning. I didn't know it, but it was the beginning for me, not just of survival, but the first glimpse of revival. You see, revival is the return. It's the unearthing of who we are and what we are meant to do in this world. I don't know, has anybody ever felt that? Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's loud. Raise a hand, anybody? All right, yes. I was like, I cannot be the only one. Revival is active, you know? It's something we choose, but it's also something that we have to practice over and over. So you may see over here on my right, Dewdrops. And Dewdrops is a work inspired by a single drop of dew. And it really is about that quiet renewal that occurs over and over again. And sometimes I think people talk about transformation as being loud or like a bolt of lightning. But I actually think of it as being gentle. And if we're not careful, sometimes it can be overlooked. So for me, it's very similar to dew occurring. It's subtle, revived in the dark, and very, very important because it doesn't have to be loud. Engaging in revival is bold enough. And you know what? I am inspired by science, nature, and technology. And so I nerd out on science, and I learn a lot. I think nature is a great teacher for me. And so I think a lot about dew. When I was designing this, I thought a lot about dewdrops, and I researched that. And dewdrops might seem solitary at first glance, but when they merge, they expand, and they become something bigger. And when they evaporate, they become one with everything around them. I think that's quite beautiful. To me, revival's like that. It's both individual and collective. It's in the unseen ways we grow and shift and change and rejoin something bigger. Dew also collects and absorbs. And if we're not careful, we do that. Humans do that too. We can absorb the beliefs, the fears, the pressure from anything around us, voices telling us we're not good enough. But the other side of that is we can also hear really good things too, right? So that was just, my first glimpse of that. And the other thing about dew is that it asks us to open, to deeply open, just like revival, and let truth move through us like water, shifting, powerful, and very much alive. Speaking of powerful water, about 5 years ago, I was working on my second iteration of a project called Lights at the U.S. National Whitewater Center. The day of the opening, very much like the rain that we had last night, but much more intense. We had a really big storm come through Charlotte. I don't know, some of you may have remembered that. There were power outages and a lot of flash flooding. LACA Projects and Batchmaker were hit, and some other surrounding businesses. So there I was, the day of an opening, and this particular project housed over 400 sculptural objects on a half-a-mile trail deep in the woods. So let me paint that picture. So I was up at 5:30 a.m. and ready to go at a Walmart in Belmont, North Carolina, searching for rain gear. I had a rain jacket, but I had never had a need for rain pants at that point. This is, still new to me doing outdoor work. And so there I am. I go inside, and the shelves are picked clean. There's some ponchos and some miscellaneous items, and a pair of youth large rain pants. I'm somewhat of an optimist. Yeah. So I bought them, along with some other gear to share with the team. So I get to the Whitewater Center, and the team arrives, and we gear up, and I'm kind of like trying to get my game face on because there are 15 artists that I'm supposed to lead through this, right? Like, they're looking to me like, what are we gonna do? It's still raining. The sky is heavy as we enter the trail. The leaves are loud from the gusts of wind, and I start walking. And the ground is like soggy under my feet. It's so saturated. There's red clay that's slick. It's goopy. And I start looking around and seeing pools of standing water everywhere. There were like gravel washed out, little rivers going across. This is supposed to be opening day. And that's when fear hits. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? So I take a deep breath, as one does, and I start with the first installation and get ready to show them how to inspect the objects. And I bend down. And my pants split right up the crack. Right up the crack. And we laughed. We laughed so hard. And we needed that, and I didn't realize how much my team and I needed that. So I attempt to patch it with duct tape. I mean, listen, I'm an artist. I can try to make something out of nothing here. And we continue on with the day. And as we continue, it's still wet and messy. And I think, quietly sometimes, it's so nasty out. Is anyone gonna come? But they did. They came, and they were waiting. And that's amazing. I was so in awe of that. But it taught me that sometimes revival doesn't look clean. Sometimes revival shows up in mud and duct tape. Sometimes it shows up in movement and in laughter and in getting it through. So now that I've gotten a little more vulnerable, you've literally seen my pants split wide open. I told you I was going to crack wide open. You just didn't know that that's how I was going to crack wide open. You know, resilience has gotten me here in a lot of ways, but revival keeps me honest. As an artist, I've never really created to please other people. Like, that's one of my strengths, I think. I really create and design as if no one around me is watching. I think it keeps me honest in that sense. However, early career, I did create from a place of trying to not please people, but to be seen in the right spaces, to be perceived in a specific way. And you know, that's a different kind of ache. I don't know if all emerging artists have experienced that, or some of them, but I know I have. And so there was this time when I decided I was going to apply for an artist residency. And it was like the be-all, end-all goal in my book. You know, in my mind, I had done the work. It was my time. And so I worked really, really hard on that application. And I mean, we all still do that when you're applying for grants or things like that. Worked really hard, editing, tweaking. And finally, I clicked submit. And I waited. And I waited. And then announcement day came, and I kept refreshing my inbox, like, repetitively. You can tell I'm type A. Like, let me just check. And, you know, around lunchtime, I decided I'm going to run out. I'm going to grab something to eat, some trash food, an unhealthy distraction. So there I am, parked in the front seat of my car with a yummy chicken sandwich in my hand. A couple bites in, and the email comes in. Dear artist, we regret to inform you we had a lot of applications. You suck. Well, that's what I heard. That's what I read. You know, that's one of those things when you're going through some rejection, because it wasn't in my mind that my work wasn't a fit. It wasn't in my mind that maybe there was another person that was a bit better for the opportunity, that it was their time. In my mind, it was me. I was rejected. So I cried. I ugly cried right there. Yeah. Eating a chicken sandwich. Tears, grease, shame. It was kind of gross, I'm not gonna lie. But it was needed, because somewhere between the bites and what was probably a choking hazard, I found revival in that. I realized that I needed to stop asking for permission. Let me say that again, especially to creative beings. Revival comes when we stop asking for permission. When we say, this is who I am. This is what I make. I will find spaces meant for me, or I will create them. And I have. The same way dew forms, like these drops, without asking permission at all, and simply becomes. That doesn't that doesn't mean becoming is easy, because revival isn't comfortable, and it's not supposed to be. Sometimes it means saying yes before you feel ready. Sometimes it means you have to stretch. Some of the most meaningful work I've done has been a healthy mix of fear and trust. Sometimes it feels too much when you're saying yes. And it is. It can be too much for the version of you who said yes. But what I've realized, it has never been too much for the version of me that finished. Okay? Thank you. Sometimes revival means letting go of the perfect scenario, which, especially as creative people, we can build all kinds of scenarios that are perfect for ourselves and our brains. Sometimes it means letting go of that and what you imagined to make space for what is needed now. In August of 2022, I curated my first exhibition. I'm so proud of that still, and I'm going to tell you why. Sorry, I might get like a little emotional about this one because it's very close to my heart. In August of 2022, I curated my first exhibition, and it was a response to the unrest and injustice of the Supreme Court's decision and the reversal of Roe v. Wade. I didn't wake up one day going, I'm going to curate, I'm ready. This came as a response to unrest. It was from a place of conviction. It was from a place of community need. And that's very real to me and what I believe in. And I recall sitting after that news came through with my dear friend Katie, who's here today. Hey, Katie. And we were talking, and I was like, I have to channel this rage. I'm so mad. This is so wrong. We have to do something. We can't be the only ones that feel this way. And I said, what if we organize a show? And she looked at me and said, you can do this, and I'll help. And that's when I realized sometimes revival is a voice, not just your inner voice, but a voice of encouragement, one that cuts through the noise all around you and says, you can do this. Or better yet, we can do this. And that we turned into, within 6 weeks' time, 27 artists, 3 sponsors, 2 musicians, 1 poet, and an opening at Goodyear Arts. And you see, what's special about that is it changed me. I am changed. And since then, I have curated 2 additional exhibitions that address complex social issues. Unbound, Art by Survivors of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, and then one that just recently closed at McCall Center called Sovereign, Honoring Bodily Autonomy. And I'm still curating, I'm still listening, and I'm still trusting that revival will happen every single time I do that work. Because revival and real change does not happen in repose. And the name of that exhibition that I curated was Not in Repose. And with everything going on, I'm just gonna put a little sign in there. I really hope that we continue with that and not staying in repose. To me, revival really is about showing up. And that's been my ongoing experience, letting myself evolve, even in public, like you guys heard a lot of stories this morning, unfinished, unguarded, and completely and utterly imperfect. Ripped pants, chicken sandwiches, that's me. But revival has taught me it's not about getting it right. It's really not. It's about showing up. It's about showing up, like you guys are here this morning in community, and we need that. And my understanding of that has only deepened as I've continued to curate shows, to create work for community, to mentor emerging artists, and to create space and hold space for stories that haven't always been centered. Because real revival is creative symbiosis. It's mutual. It's saying, I see you, I believe in your voice, and I'm here for you. Let's build something together. So if you're standing at a creative threshold this morning, if you're exhausted and you're still showing up, If you're making something with trembling hands, if you are on a stage in front of all these people talking about your pants ripping open, I'm here for you. This is your revival. You are like dew, holding unseen worlds inside of you, renewing each day. Thank you.
Meredith Connelly, everybody, Meredith Connelly!